The invaders, methodical and merciless, stripping the planet of its resources. Vast energy beams scoured the land, pulling up soil, trees, and water as though Earth's essence was nothing more than fuel. No weapon in humanity's arsenal had made the slightest dent. Missiles exploded uselessly against their energy shields, aircraft were dismantled midair, and advanced drones were hijacked, turned back against their own creators. In just weeks, human civilization crumbled. Maria had watched it all unfold from the safety of her rural town, miles away from the once bustling cities, now reduced to skeletal ruins. A former mechanic with calloused hands and a steely demeanor, she had known from the start that modern technology wouldn't save them. The townspeople, however, had remained hopeful, thinking that somewhere, in some hidden government bunker, a solution was being devised. They were wrong. In the fields outside town, aliens had begun their harvesting. Massive machines dug deep into the earth, extracting minerals and rare metals. The foundations of human civilization disappearing before their eyes. Maria, along with the few survivors left in her town, had gathered in what remained of the old schoolhouse, their spirits beaten as they awaited the inevitable. It was in this gathering of the lost and desperate that Jacob spoke up, his voice quiet yet steady. "I know a place," he said. Jacob, an amateur historian and known oddball around town, had spent years obsessing over the remnants of past wars. He was an unlikely figure to offer salvation, thin, bespectacled, and always a little too eager to share trivia about battles long past. Yet, in the absence of any other options, people listened. "There's an old military storage facility," he explained, "hidden in the woods, not far from here. I've seen it before. It's got machines, tanks." "Tanks," Maria scoffed. "We need something with firepower, not antiques." But there was something in Jacob's eyes that made her pause. Desperation did that to people, made them cling to even the most improbable sliver of hope. So, against her better judgment, Maria agreed to go with him. A few others, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow from weeks of hunger and fear, volunteered to follow. What else was there to lose? They set out at dawn, the world unervingly quiet. The once vibrant landscape had been reduced to gray fields and dead trees. In the distance, the low hum of alien machines rumbled like a heartbeat of destruction. It didn't take long to reach the storage facility, a dilapidated building overrun with vines and moss, almost swallowed by nature's slow reclamation. Maria kicked the rusted door open, the air inside thick with dust. Rows of military vehicles sat in the dim light, their metal exteriors tarnished by decades of neglect. The tanks, hulking and obsolete, looked more like relics of a bygone era than instruments of war. She felt her stomach sink. "This is what you brought us here for?" one of the men muttered, his voice thick with disbelief. Maria approached the nearest tank, running her hand along its cold, chipped surface. "These things are ancient. How are they going to help us?" Jacob, unperturbed, clambered atop one of the tanks. "That's exactly why they might work. These machines don't have electronics. No software, no circuits for the aliens to hack. It's all gears, pistons, and metal. The aliens have adapted to our advanced tech, but these they won't see coming." Maria frowned. It was absurd, really, to think that these rusty old war machines could make a difference. And yet, the logic was there. The aliens had neutralized everything modern with frightening ease. Perhaps something so outdated, so primitive by today's standards, would indeed catch them off guard. After all, their modern weapons had done nothing but fail. "They're in rough shape," Maria said, her tone more thoughtful now. "But maybe we can get them running." It wasn't long before the others began to scavenge parts, testing the engines and cleaning out the accumulated rust. The mood shifted, a quiet determination settling over the group. They had no choice but to try. Days passed as Maria and the survivors worked tirelessly, piecing together what they could. Slowly but surely, the tanks roared back to life, their engines sputtering at first but gaining strength. The townspeople watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief. the one-sided relics now growling, ready for battle once more. By the time the first alien scouts appeared near the edge of town, Maria was in the driver's seat of one of the tanks, her hands gripping the controls with a new sense of purpose. The aliens may have ravaged Earth, but here, in this forgotten corner of the world, humanity had one last card to play. Her voice crackled over the old radio. Let's show them what these old machines can do. The first clash with the aliens was nothing short of a miracle. The old tanks, clumsy and slow compared to the sleek, advanced machines of modern warfare, had proven devastatingly effective. Alien energy weapons, designed to disable electronic systems and overpower human defenses, simply glanced off the tank's thick metal hulls. Without the sophisticated circuitry that the aliens were so adept at neutralizing, these relics became the front line against the invaders. Maria had led the charge, her tank rumbling through the smoke and debris, and when the aliens retreated, they left behind a victory that no one had thought possible. The small, rural community transformed almost overnight. Survivors from neighboring towns, hearing of the tank's triumph, flocked to the area, eager to join the resistance. Mechanics, engineers, and soldiers brought their skills, and soon a makeshift army was born, each person playing a vital role in restoring and operating the growing fleet of tanks. What had begun as a desperate gamble turned into a full-scale movement. The Tank Empire, as they were soon called, became humanity's last line of defense. But with rapid growth came problems. As the resistance swelled, so too did differences in opinion. The battle had sparked hope, but it had also ignited ambition. Maria remained focused on their goal: defend the people, keep the tanks operational, and buy time to figure out how to stop the alien harvest. Her leadership, however, was soon challenged by Jones, a former military officer who had arrived with a squad of fighters and a fierce determination to reclaim more than just their small patch of land. "We can't sit here forever," Jones said during a council meeting, his voice gruff but commanding. "We've shown we can win, so let's take the fight to them. Hit their outposts, drive them off Earth entirely." Maria frowned, folding her arms across her chest. "We've won one battle, not the war. We need to protect what's left of our people, not march off and risk everything for territory." Jones shook his head, his gaze hard. "Hiding behind these tanks won't save us. If we don't start pushing back, we'll lose everything anyway. You're thinking too small." Ellis, another prominent voice in the Tank Empire, stood at the far end of the room, listening quietly. Unlike Jones, he wasn't a soldier but a strategist who had once worked for a global humanitarian organization. Where Jones saw the tanks as weapons of conquest, Ellis viewed them as tools of liberation. His focus was on the thousands of humans still trapped in alien internment camps, used as labor for the invaders' resource extraction. "If we're going to strike," Ellis finally said, his voice measured, "it should be to free our people. Hitting their strongholds might make us feel powerful, but it won't save lives. We can't lose sight of what matters: humanity." Jones smirked, clearly unimpressed. "Sentiment won't win this war." The room grew tense as the factions became clearer. Maria's group, which called themselves the Guardians, believed in using the tanks primarily for defense, prioritizing the safety of civilians, and only engaging in battles where victory seemed likely. Jones and his followers, the Conquerors, saw the tanks as humanity's chance to go on the offensive, reclaiming land and resources from the aliens, no matter the cost. And Ellis' group, the Liberators, cared little for land or resources. Their goal was to use the tanks in stealth missions to rescue human prisoners, even if it meant avoiding direct combat. These three visions of the future clashed repeatedly as the Tank Empire grew. In the heat of battle, unity had come easily. Now, in the calm before the next storm, discontent simmered just beneath the surface. Maria tried to keep the factions focused on their common goal: survival, but each group's ambitions pulled in a different direction. It wasn't long before tensions boiled over. Jones, frustrated by Maria's cautious leadership, decided to take matters into his own hands. Without approval from the council, He led a raid on a nearby alien outpost, commandeering several tanks and launching a full frontal assault. At first, the operation seemed to be a success. His tanks smashed through alien defenses, and for a brief moment, the conquerors tasted victory. But the cost was higher than anticipated. Alien reinforcements arrived quickly, decimating half of Jones' forces and leaving dozens of human civilians in the crossfire. The attack failed, and the remaining fighters limped back to the base, broken and demoralized. The fallout was immediate. Maria confronted Jones in the aftermath, fury etched on her face. "You've doomed us. We can't afford losses like this." Jones, battered but defiant, spat back. "You're too weak to lead this fight, Maria. Sitting here waiting for the aliens to finish us off isn't an option." The council fractured. The conquerors rallied behind Jones, while Maria's guardians doubled down on their defensive strategies. Ellis liberators grew more isolated, conducting secret missions to rescue prisoners, while tensions escalated within the tank empire. Despite the chaos, there was no denying one fact. The tanks had given them power. How they would wield that power, however, remained uncertain. And as the alien threat loomed ever closer, threatening to wipe out everything they had built, one question hung heavy in the air. Would the tank empire unite to face the enemy, or tear itself apart from within? The air around the tank empire's stronghold was thick with anticipation. Word had spread of the aliens' imminent assault, an all-out attack to crush the last human resistance. Maria stood at the edge of the base, her eyes scanning the horizon. The tanks, their engines rumbling like ancient beasts, were ready, but the divisions within the ranks weighed heavily on her. The recent losses from Jones' failed offensive had shaken morale, and the factions were more fractured than ever. Deep down, Maria knew that they were running out of time. The aliens were learning from each engagement, adapting to the tank's armor and tactics. Their next assault wouldn't be met with the same element of surprise that had granted the humans their earlier victories. As she surveyed the base, a distant explosion shattered the tense silence. Smoke billowed up from the nearby forest, the storage facility where they had first discovered the tanks. Maria's heart dropped. Something was terribly wrong. She grabbed her radio. "Jacob, are you there?" His voice crackled through, urgent but breathless. "Maria, you need to come to the storage facility. Now." She didn't hesitate. With a small squad of guardians, she raced toward the facility, her thoughts racing even faster. What could have gone wrong in that old, forgotten place? When she arrived, the scene was chaos. The explosion had blown a massive crater into the ground, revealing an underground chamber unlike anything Maria had ever seen. The walls glowed with an unnatural light, pulsing with a strange energy. At the center of the chamber, a massive alien artifact jutted out from the earth, partially buried but unmistakably powerful. Jacob stood at the edge of the pit, his face illuminated by the artifact's glow. He turned to Maria, his eyes wide with awe. It was here the whole time. Maria's breath caught in her throat. What is it?" Jacob ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find the words. "It's ancient. I've seen references to artifacts like this in some of the old military archives. They're not from the aliens who are attacking us now. This thing predates them. It's from a civilization that visited Earth centuries ago, and it's been sitting here underneath the tanks this whole time." The realization hit Maria like a punch to the gut. "So the tanks—" Jacob nodded. "The metal. The tank's metal has been absorbing energy from this artifact for decades. That's why they're so resistant to the aliens' weapons. It's not just because they're old. It's because they've been infused with something the aliens can't counter." Maria's mind raced as she pieced it together. The tanks weren't just machines of war. They were the key to humanity's survival. And now, the aliens were closing in on the one thing that could destroy them. But before she could fully process the implications, Jones stormed into the chamber, his eyes blazing with determination. "This is it," he declared, pointing at the artifact. "This is our weapon. We can use this to take the fight to the aliens." Maria shot him a hard look. "You Don't even know what it is, Jones. We can't just... I don't care what it is, he snapped. It's alien. It's powerful. And it's the only chance we've got to win this war. We use it now, or we lose everything. Ellis, who had followed close behind, stepped forward, shaking his head. This isn't a weapon. It's a power source, something beyond our understanding. If we misuse it, we could destroy ourselves along with the aliens. The tension in the room was palpable. Maria knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental, but the divisions between them were sharper than ever, threatening to unravel all that they had fought for. Maria clenched her fists, forcing herself to think clearly. We're not using this as a weapon, she said firmly, but we can use it to power the tanks. If we can harness this energy correctly, it'll give us the edge we need in the final battle. Jones sneered but didn't argue. Time was running out, and even he knew they had little choice. Under Jacob's direction, they began to channel the artifact's energy into the tanks. The process was delicate, and every second felt like a gamble. But when the tanks roared to life this time, the power within them was unmistakable. They glowed with a faint, otherworldly light, charged with the same energy that had protected them all along. As the alien forces approached, the sky darkened with their ships. This would be the final stand. Maria climbed into her tank, her heart pounding in her chest. Over the radio, she gave the command, "Let's finish this." The tanks surged forward, their newfound power making them faster, stronger, and more destructive than ever. The alien ships descended, firing their energy beams, but the tanks, now infused with the artifact's energy, shrugged off the attacks. Cannon fire erupted from the human side, striking the alien vessels with devastating force. The battlefield was chaos, but this time, the humans had the upper hand. Maria led the charge, her tank plowing through alien ranks as though the invaders were made of paper. Around her, Jones' forces and Ellis liberators fought with renewed vigor. For the first time, it felt like they might truly win. And as the final alien ship fell from the sky in flames, a cheer erupted from the remaining survivors. The battle was over. Earth was theirs again, at least for now. Maria climbed out of her tank, staring at the smoldering wreckage of the alien ships. The artifact's glow still pulsed faintly in the distance, a reminder of the power they had tapped into and the dangers that still lurked beneath the surface. The tank empire had won the battle.